Welcome back to COVID Chats, everybody. My guest today is Brielle Diskin. I met Brielle my freshman year at Rutgers University. Since graduating, Brielle has been writing for a number of publications such as Pop Sugar and The Week Junior. Besides writing for work, Brielle is also in the midst of producing her own novel. In this episode, we talk about pop culture, movies, and more. Lastly, in addition to the main part of this episode, there is also a new intro and outro for COVID Chats. I hope you enjoy. Hello, Brielle, and welcome to episode 24 of COVID Chats.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course, this is very exciting. We, of course, met our freshman year at Rutgers in Tinsley Hall, the great Tinsley Hall.
That went by
time.
fast.
Yeah, it went by fast. It did. That feels like a long time ago, but the memories are still somewhat vivid. So, a bunch of questions for you. But first, I'm just curious, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm good as anyone can be, really. I feel like the bar is, are you healthy? Are your loved ones healthy? Are you able to work and make money? And so far I'm okay with that. My family's okay with that. So we're really fortunate. We're all together under the same roof, but we're getting along. So yeah, I'm as good as anyone can be.
That's great. Well, I'm glad the health is there and the wealth is there, and you're not tearing each other apart altogether. So that's, of course, important. You're in Brooklyn, correct?
I'm in Montclair, New Jersey right now.
Oh, you're in Montclair. Okay, I thought you were in BK. I was going to ask you what it's like being in the second greatest borough, but
I kind of agree with you there. No, I have a friend there right now. I mean, everyone I know in the city kind of like came out. Who knew the suburbs would be like the place to be right now? But I have one friend, she couldn't go back home, and she's like cooped up in her really small apartment. And I recently sent her like banana bread that I made. So it's like, you're gonna just hang in there. It's okay. I'm kind of fortunate not to be in the city right now.
Yeah, you're telling me.
How are you you're uptown, like
I'm
west?
uptown. Yeah, Upper West, Morningside Heights near Columbia.
Okay. Yeah, my grandma lived there.
Your grandma lived there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beautiful area. Nice to get out and such. Yeah, the bunch of parks, right? Riverside and Morningside and Central. Lucky for me, the apartment that I live in, the apartment that I grew up in, is pretty spacious, and there's a fair amount of room. And my parents aren't around, so I have even more room. But then at the same time, not having the family there has its downsides for all the normal reasons. It's that trade-off of living with people and being in the same roof and feeling very contained, and then being on your own and feeling the freedom, but then feeling the loneliness. So, weird.
Yeah, it goes up and down.
It does, yeah. And I think everyone sort of day by day goes up and down with this.
Yeah, it's a day by day thing for sure.
Definitely. So you just finished the full day of work from home. How has the transition been like? And are you doing anything to make the home office more, work-like?
So everyone I live with my mom and sister right now, and we're all working. So we each have our like sequestered areas, and that works out well. I kind of change it up and like every other day. Like guilty, like it's a guilty feeling, but I kind of like working from home better. I like not taking the subway and like being in an office with fluorescent lighting, even like the mod offices too. Just it's nice to like be at home, make lunch when I want to. So I haven't been hating it, and I'm still productive, which is good. My job is like easy to work remote, and there were a couple days where I worked remote before all of this happened, so I kind of know how it goes. Sure. And it's like easy to do. Just keep your Slack open and your email open.
Why do you feel guilty about it?
That I'm like enjoying it a little bit. I read this headline like in the first week that everyone was stopped going to work if you didn't have to, but it was like quarantine is not your vacation, because I think like some of us feel like this is nice being home. So I have to like remind myself that this is not a good thing,
Right.
but I am enjoying it a little bit. Waking up later is nice. I get like an extra hour of sleep.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got right. We have to keep the context of there's a global pandemic and a virus tearing apart people's lives. And then also for those of us who aren't super affected, it can be nice to be at home and get things done that we wouldn't normally otherwise. And
Yeah.
I guess that's difficult. But yeah, I think it's good that you mix it up day by day. I found myself doing that too. I can't work in the exact same spot every time. It becomes too much.
Maddening for sure.
Even though, in the office, I guess, modern offices like a WeWork or something, there's plenty of different places to work. But, I've had a summer internship where I was at a desk or a cubicle, and I came to adapt to that. I think humans are pretty adaptable. We can kind of find what works for us.
Yeah.
So, I know you're an editorial assistant for The Week Junior, which is a kids' print magazine. Have you seen an uptick in subscriptions as many parents are looking for ways to keep their kids entertained and educated?
Yeah, we're actually doing really well in terms of like maintaining subscriptions, and actually like we've been getting more subscriptions because we launched in March. So it's a new magazine, so we're getting more subscriptions just by like marketing and word of mouth for that reason. But some of the like people writing back and writing in, we have like a your turn section for like kids to like give us some feedback, and everyone says like during these times like it's great to what am I trying to say? Oh, it's great to have something for like our kids to read, and like there's so many sections, so we have a lot of like information on science and animals, and I contribute a lot to the entertainment section, so it's like things for kids to watch, which is it's cool, and a lot of like videos they like. We did one on we almost did like virtual concerts are such a thing now, and like virtual roller coasters, so there's new things forming because of the crisis that we can pass on.
Right.
So it's cool.
Has the content sort of shifted? I mean, I guess it started in March when Corona was already a reality, but has it shifted as it's gone on to deal with life at home and for kids who are at home?
When we first started preparing for the launch and Corona started becoming a thing, none of us had any. We had to switch we weren't even expecting to have it on the cover. We're going to have like a small story about it. And then the week we launched was the second week of lockdown in New York. So we like literally launched a magazine from like everyone's homes. So we had to like shift things around a lot. The content has definitely changed each week, because we do big news around the world and then big news nationally. So it's trying to find a balance of stories that don't all have to do with Corona, or it's kids too. So if you load them with like negative things like depression, like people are dying, unemployment lines, things like that, it's just a lot. I don't know if you like thinking back to when we were kids. 2008 recession happened. I keep flashing back to that and how I wanted to receive information. So I think I perceive this pandemic differently because I'm searching for different kinds of stories for kids. So that's been fulfilling, but definitely the content has changed.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thinking back to '08 and sort of like we were much younger then and dealing with it, and what was being told to us and how is it being told, and how can we, how was it done well, how wasn't it done well? And it's cool that you have that context. There haven't really been two major recessions in most people's lifetimes, so this is
our generation, like we were born 96, 97, like you and I, like our grade, and 9/11 happened, like that was like our first real memory, and then 2008 was like midlife, right before adolescence, and then now this is just a great time to grow up. Really, it's strange. I didn't think that, because I always thought that our generation never experienced like war, but then with all of this, it's made me think, wow, we also dealt with like a unique set of circumstances as well, compared to like baby boomers and stuff.
Completely right. It's a different chaos, different trauma. We've obviously there's wars going on, but because it's not a draft anymore and feels like it's been an endless war almost, whereas wars used to, I guess, start and
All
stop at
these
some point.
tiny wars as
Right.
well, like
Yeah,
inanimate
proxy.
objects that are endless.
Yeah, and the droning, the whole element of war now is so removed from it that I think it's kind of removed
Right.
from us too. But certainly these types of moments are very visceral, and we're here for them. So you also mentioned that you've been doing some painting and sketching more in quarantine because of its therapeutic qualities. So I'm curious to go deeper on that. What is it about creating art that is so peaceful? Is it the time away from the screen, or is it something else?
Definitely that. I start to get, I use like my blue light glasses, but I still get like headaches looking at the screen too much. But my mom's an artist, so I grew up in a really artistic home, and she always sent us to like art classes and like was obsessed with our work and was like, "You should be like, you guys are so good." And I was like, "Yeah, but I want to do all these other things." So art's definitely in my upbringing, but I'm still an artist in the sense that I write and like want to be, and am a storyteller. So I stuck to the artistic path, but sketching and painting was never really my medium. So I feel like I'm kind of getting back to like my roots. My mom has been, she's been making artwork her whole life, and I like watch her do that at her desk. So it's like cool to share in that. But recently, because I'm been very into like psychology and mental health, and exploring new forms of like therapy. And I knew about art therapy, but I have a very busy mind, and it's very rare that something can like quiet it down. And I started painting like 2 weeks into quarantine. I was like, wow, like, and I stopped painting. It had been like 3 hours, and I was like, I didn't think about anything, which was great.
Yeah.
Like a big, relaxing. So that was cool. And I learned about color therapy recently, which is drawing shapes, and in the shapes you attach feelings. So it was your favorite song, or ideal spring, or home, or someone you love. So you in your mind create colors
Hmm.
for each shape, and that was really cool. And I shared that with some friends, and they found that really therapeutic.
That is cool.
So,
I haven't heard of color. Is that gaining traction now? Color therapy? Is
I
that?
think so, yeah. I saw it on Instagram, a couple like designers posting about it, but I think it'll definitely become more of a thing as we explore therapy, and the walls on mental health are really coming down in terms of
Yeah,
how we talk about it. So
about time.
we've always been crazy. We
Yeah.
should just start talking about it.
That's a good quote. I like that. Yeah, I've been doing a little art myself. I'm not talking about the COVID chats, but I've been doing some watercolor. So here's my
Oh,
little.
that's dope. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's cool. I love
Yeah,
portraits.
yeah, it's funny. I saw the watercolors in some drawer, and I was just like, I haven't done anything like that in so long, and it was just
Right? Yeah,
so
that's the
great to
thing.
do it.
And it's so instilled in us when we're kids. It's like
Right,
arts and crafts. It's like we
right,
know how to do it.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
finger painting and whatnot. Throughout childhood there's always paper mache or collage or something, and then that kind of fades away unless you
Yeah.
follow it right. Yeah, it really is great, honestly. I feel like my watercolor has gotten a little better day by day. So pivoting a little bit to a different kind of art, the art of writing. I know you're a contributing writer for Pop Sugar, which is a global media company with an emphasis on pop culture. And I'm curious, how in your eyes has pop culture changed this past month and a half?
It's been interesting. I'm very tuned into like the journalist, like Twitter community, and what every publication really wants, like Corona related things. But it's interesting to see the way we're tackling it. Per what we were saying about mental health, I think the media has done a really good job, like kind of like pop culture magazines in particular, personal essays about mental health. I think there's been a lot of good content on that, and we're really thinking about it more. Because I mean, every person experiences anxiety, depression in their life, but now we're all in this collective shared trauma.
Right.
So I think there's a lot on that. I also feel as if we're not strangers anymore. No one is a stranger. Like you see someone on the street, and it's like the same things on both of our minds. So the barriers on that, I start like in some people's writing styles, I feel like it's gotten more personal. Content, there's so much content about, I love this, but like what to stream, there's been a lot of that. Books to read, activities to do. It's interesting to see the industries that are thriving, like Zoom, or jigsaw puzzles or board games. So I think people are sharing what they're doing, baking bread, things like that, and that's cool to see. I think there is a necessary sensitivity to, like that article headline I mentioned earlier with this isn't your vacation kind of thing. So I think it's good when we come back to that context and sensitivity. In terms of pop culture, I think the entertainment industry has changed forever. We were kind of on the brink of this battle between theaters and streaming. And definitely streaming has proven that, I mean, you want to believe that everyone wants to see films in the theaters, but now that we're been forced to be so comfortable with streaming, it's a lot less people who are going to be going to theaters. There's this great article in Rolling Stone by Peter Travers where he says we will again sit together in the dark. And it's kind of how the theater, it's so cool to just go to a movie theater and see a movie with people. So I think we'll still have that. But I mean, AMC is one of the largest theater companies in the world, conglomerates, and they're really struggling. They've like filed certain chapters. So that's definitely different. And we'll see that. I think the retail fashion industry is really struggling. Supply chain's been really messed up. I know some companies have just stopped advertising, and there are just so many. I mean, sales are nice, but it's like you see so many sales and it almost feels like a going out of business type vibe. So I think all those industries are just really affected, and it's on the media to really stick by their side and like report on it, and I like to know about it. I bought like gift cards to like independent theaters that I like to help support them. I tried to buy a book off Amazon, or I tried to buy a book, and I was like, oh, let me go to like an independent bookseller and like try and get it from there. And it was this one site, I won't say which one, but it was the book was like twice the price on Amazon, and a percentage of what I paid my purchase would have gone to independent booksellers. So, but it was like such a small percentage. What I did was I just got it on Amazon and donated what I would have spent there to the site. So
good workaround.
Yeah. There's a hot tip.
Yeah, I like that. Why can't you share the independent book site? Is it?
I feel bad. Well, like it's 10%, so it was like a $40 book, and like $5 was gonna go. I think it was called bookshop.com, but they also have a section where you can just donate. So I just donated because on Amazon it was like $20. It was a book on screenwriting.
Nice. So, relating to movies and theaters coming back eventually, that Rolling Stone article, do you think theaters will be forced to change a little bit? Like, do you think we'll see more Alamo draft houses and theaters with other offerings besides just movies, or will people?
Perhaps, yeah. I think there was already an increasing demand for the movies that studios bought because there had to be a theater appeal to it. I mean, the conversation about like the Avengers movies, like those were theater movies, and they changed what we expected to see in the theater, what makes people fill the seats. But I think it's similar to restaurants where it's like there's going to be a question of capacity and people sitting closely together. I'm interested to see how film festivals this year do. Venice hasn't canceled, Telluride hasn't canceled. So we'll see on that. South by Southwest was somewhat successful in releasing their films to Amazon, and again with the pop culture coverage in the media, there's a couple articles out there that I was looking at, like films to see that were going to be in South by Southwest. But yeah, I don't know the business models that some of the theaters are coming out with, but I know Neon is doing like an interactive theater experience with Spaceship Earth, a film they have coming out. It's a documentary. I think it was at Sundance. I went there and didn't see it, but yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. They definitely have to. They got to change it up a bit.
Right.
They're in it now.
Yeah, they certainly are.
Especially with Quibi too.
Yeah. Do you think Quibi will be big?
I think it appeals very strongly to the way our minds have changed in the technology internet revolution. I mean, it's quick bites. It's your attention. When I'm cooking, I like to go on YouTube. Like it's kind of like that. I think it has a niche. I hope it doesn't change it too much because we still have to have respect for long form storytelling, and I hope it doesn't, shrink our attention spans anymore. But
I know.
We'll see.
Yeah, that's a big concern, the shrinking attention span. There was an interesting quote. Bill Maher was on the Joe Rogan Experience, and he mentioned how I know, interesting matchup right there, but he mentioned how our attention spans are either like 7 seconds or 3 hours. Because, like some of the Joe Rogan Experience episodes are like 3 hours long, and then there's also TikTok, and I mean, Vine was a thing, although defunct, but yeah, so it's kind of there's that weird pushing and pulling of like, I want something longer, or split it in half, right? Yeah, it's tough to say. So, you mentioned that a lot of what's been breaking through, I guess, on pop culture has been sort of COVID related or related to what we're going through. What have you been reading, watching, thinking about pop-wise?
Like in my spare time or some of the articles I'm reading online?
It's a good question. I guess, yeah, in your spare time, what have you been engaging with?
Well, as an aspiring filmmaker and just movie addict, lover, a cinephile, obsessive, I've been watching a lot of movies, but also kind of educating myself in a sense, because I think I've talked to a lot of other people in the industry, but it's like, if you want an education in film, watch movies, look up behind the scenes, look up fun facts. Like, sometimes, I mean, I love, do you have Letterboxd?
I don't.
Oh, got to check out Letterboxd. It's like a social media app for movie lovers.
Cool.
They have like mini series on there too, not TV, which I kind of like. That's like specific to movies, but yeah, it's really cool. So I always post on like reviews on there after I watch something, and it's cool to log what you see. I go back and forth. I just watched I recently watched Sunset Boulevard finally. I like don't know why I haven't seen it. It's amazing. And then I was seeing a bunch of films from the 70s, or I'll do like filmmaker weekend marathons. Like my sister and I did like a Wes Anderson marathon over the weekend, kind of, which was fun. That's my OG favorite.
Great.
Yeah, and I post streaming recommendations on my Instagram story. I started that the first week of quarantine, so like third week in March, and people actually really love it. Like people comment all the time and they really engage with it, and people are like, don't stop doing this. It's cool because I had so many friends. I'm like that friend people go to for recommendations.
Sure.
And then I'll get carried away and send like a 10 paragraph list. But yeah, so I post things like that. Lately I've been doing themes, so like Earth Day was last week, and I did Avatar, and like some like surprising ones like The Descendants, because you get to see like Hawaii, and it's about like nature and like inhabitants of land.
That's cool.
But yeah, and I'll probably do something fun for Mother's Day. Yeah, I've been watching a lot. What did I watch the other night? I'm going to do a French film marathon this weekend, I think.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I haven't seen enough. I mean, I love Agnes Varda, but I've never seen Breathless or Jules and Jim, so that's on the list. Some Kurosawa stuff. Yeah, educating myself, really.
That's great, man. I wrote down a couple of those titles while you were talking. I'll have to check them out. I'm always looking for new things, so. I know I may have cut out.
Only do that, yeah.
So on the pop culture note, but more about celebrity, because I'm curious to think about this. Do you think that the cult of celebrity in America has kind of changed a bit? I say that because I feel like I haven't heard much about sort of, the latest Kendall Jenner look or something along those lines. It feels like we're not really paying attention to celebrities as much.
Gigi Hadid is pregnant, which was announced yesterday, so that's some gossip. Yes, and just had her 25th birthday the day before, so that's a lot of events for her. Yeah. So that's a really good question, and I was thinking about that a lot when this first happened because you saw like celebrities in their sweatpants like posting videos, and I was having a conversation with a friend about this, how like celebrity cultures is what it is because of the glamour of it, and that's kind of where it was. I mean, they're celebrities; they're so glamorous. They're
Right.
cooler than us, you know. They get to go on private jets and vacations and whatever. I mean, I've as someone who loves movies, it's a complicated relationship with how I look at celebrity culture because I'm not as into the Kardashians. I mean, not really a fan to be honest. Could go on about that, but I do. I mean, I love these actors and I love what they do. So there is a certain affinity, and I love late night TV. So there's that side of it. But yeah, back to Corona, I think they kind of were like originally just stripped of a lot of that glamour, and they felt like us. But then you see celebrities doing like the Global Citizens Fest or all the fundraisers that they're a part of, and you get to see that these people really do have a platform and they really can make a difference. So there's a good side of that. I think it's I saw this other interesting article where it was like, when did we start caring about celebrities' opinions and like politics? So I think it brings up that as well. I mean, we definitely do now, but I think like back in the 70s when like Warren Beatty was out with like George McGovern's campaign, it was like, what? Who are you? Or like Jane Fonda. Um, yeah, so I think they're definitely using their platform well, a lot of them. I wasn't a fan of the Gal Gadot Imagine videos. I think that stuff. But like Miley Cyrus was doing a thing like a couple weeks ago with some of her friends talking about mental health and things like that are interesting. I wonder how we're gonna see celebrities now because I feel like they've been so humanized to us. I think we're still gonna worship them, but it's interesting. And so many productions have been halted.
Yeah.
So a lot of like press junkets are messed up right now, especially from a journalist perspective. It's like, what's coming out? Like, I'm kind of confused. Uh, so yeah, there are a lot of movies I saw at Sundance that I'm like stalking online to see what's happening with that. Because indie films are the ones that hurt the most when this stuff happens.
Sure. Sure.
So
Yeah, I spoke to a documentary filmmaker earlier on in the show, and he had a movie that was supposed to hit all of these festivals. That was actually a great film. I saw it at Lincoln Center, but we also spoke about this, how there's this upcoming gap of content. What do you make of that? Do you think that Netflix and whatnot have enough backed up content to release during that, or will there really
from
be?
what I've heard, yeah, from what I've heard, they do. Disney Plus had a lot of things or Disney Studios had a lot coming out, and now they're going to release it on their platform. Neon works with Hulu a lot, so I know that they're having some things come out there. Knowing Netflix buys so many projects, I'm sure that they're going to be okay. But then the award season should be really interesting. Like Christopher Nolan is pushing to release his new film over the summer. So that'll be, because that's a big theater draw film as well. So we'll see how people come out for that. I think that'll kind of be the canary as to how we judge these things. But I was really looking forward to The French Dispatch. Now that's coming out in October. Mulan was pushed back. Yeah, I think, I don't know, it's a strange time. I think for women in film, which is something I think about a lot, it's every year, it's like gonna be the year for women. And this was really gonna be the year for women in the this spring and summer, because a lot of the movies coming out in the fall are like a lot of your favorite like male directors. There's a Fincher film coming out, and a lot of it was like male narratives, and a lot of female narratives were more supposed to come out these past couple months, and they've kind of gotten swept under the rug, which frustrates me. And I hope that the progress women were making will recontinue, like will start up again and won't be swept under the rug. But yeah, I saw a lot of films at Sundance that are now getting released on streaming platforms, or Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. Did you hear of that?
No, I didn't hear that one.
It was an amazing film, and it got very high critical review, but came out March 12th. So that was a difficult time, and it was very important. I know that word gets used a lot, but important film about a young girl who lives in rural Pennsylvania going to get an abortion. She and her cousin travel to New York City, and it kind of just really shows what young women have to go through. And that got released on Amazon for rent or purchase, and it definitely did not see the profit that it would have had it had theatrical run. But yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm concerned.
Is there any thought for some of those films that didn't get the press or the play that they did because of this? Maybe doing a re-release or a theater release later down the line?
I haven't heard that much about re-releases, but I know a lot of theatrical releases are getting pushed back. I mean, Mulan was supposed to be in March, and now it's in December, which I think is good.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But then, people are scared, like, to go out. It's anything that involves people being places, which is basically the world. There's fear, and these companies, I mean, they're losing billions by doing this, but waiting to release them is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And I think it'll be interesting when this is over, if we see, because I feel some people are going to sort of rush outside after having been inside for so long. But then, yes, a lot of people, to your credit, will be very nervous about that and won't want to be around other people.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, people, I mean, my close friends are all pretty sensitive about it, but some people in my outer circles I hear talk about it. There's the whole Jersey Shore bar scene that a lot of people are like, oh, I want my summer. And I just want to be like, please, if you have your summer the way you want it, a lot of people will get sick. So I hope that our people our age I hope it sits with them, the fear that everyone else has. But
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we all need to do our part to mitigate a second wave and anything of that sort. Just, stay home and stream, everybody.
Yeah. If you need recommendations, hit me up.
Have you heard, I'm not as into the movie scene as you are. You're very knowledgeable. Did you hear about the Pete Davidson King of Staten Island movie?
Yeah, when I first heard they were doing a project together, Judd Apatow and Pete Davidson, I was really excited. I'm like really here for the rise of Pete Davidson. Yeah, I liked his comedy special, but I think that was supposed to be released in theaters, but I saw a press release this week that said that it's going straight to streaming in June. Which, I mean, it's a Judd Apatow film and it's a comedy, and that's something that may not have necessarily had as big a theater, like, wouldn't have been, it's not theater dependent.
Yeah.
So I think that should do okay. And like, I mean, he's really peak fame right now, so he brings a certain draw to it. I think I'm excited for that though, because I'm a big Judd Apatow, and they're both from Staten Island.
I know, it's crazy.
Right? Yeah, so that'll be good. The poster, I think the poster's out, but it came out like this week. I would look it up. It's like him standing on a car with tattoos, and it's he's like a reluctant adult living at his mom's house. So
right,
very on brand.
Very on brand. It's loosely based off his life, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think they like helped. Yeah, they were. They wrote it together. I love Judd Apatow alumni or students.
Yeah, Judd is great, and it's funny because Pete's actually now he's like back living at home in his mom's basement.
Yeah, I think he like always did, because it was like, I bought my mom a house, but because I always wanted to do that, but it's kind of hard to like buy another house. My dream one day is to buy my mom a house, so I kind of get that.
Funny.
But yeah, the SNL skit in his basement was funny.
Yeah, have you been watching any of the SNL stay-at-home episodes?
I have. I liked them. Tom Hanks was funny in the first one, and then they're good. I actually recently got into SNL. I like go up and down with it, but I've been into it recently, and I think the at-home ones are good, and the reception seems good.
Yeah,
I laugh. I'm not like a huge sketch comedy person. Like, I'm like more dry humor, but sometimes it gets me. I think Brad Pitt's really funny, honestly.
Brad Pitt, you said?
As Fauci, that was funny.
Yeah, that was
he's a funny guy. We all learned this year.
He's definitely funny. I think we saw that also in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He had some funny moments.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I do. I have been watching the two SNLs. I think they have been pretty good, actually. SNL definitely has its peaks and valleys over the course
Yeah.
of time. But I think doing it every 2 weeks helps them a lot. And
Yeah.
then doing shorter, it feels like the skits have been shorter and they're doing more skits, which I think is better instead of trying to draw out one idea
Yeah.
too long. Just, trim.
Yeah, sometimes they are a little long. Yeah. I
Yeah.
wonder if their comedy style will change because of this.
Mhm. Yeah, I spoke to a comedian about, how will comedy change now that, stand-up comedians might not even be able to do stand-up for almost all of 2020 or something like that. So
Probably.
it'll be interesting to see.
Or it'll be like a lot of chance to write a lot and then like mob everyone with it in 2021. Yeah.
I'm
I
okay
wonder
with
what
that.
people
I said I'm okay with that. That's fine.
here for it.
I'm here for it. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. I hope it's not just coronavirus related jokes, but there certainly will be a wave of that.
Yeah, I wonder because I've been thinking in film, it's like with the films coming out, and I'm sure there's a lot of filmmakers that are. I mean, I myself, like, have been writing stuff and creating stuff, and I feel weird writing things that don't relate to coronavirus. But then at the same time, it's like, will anyone want to be reminded of this? And are we too close to it to really like tell story? I mean, even with Trump, it's like there have been like TV shows and movies quite about it yet. And the Me Too movement, it's like
Sure.
I think we should be concerned before we tell stories that we're not far away from enough yet.
Mm,
But yeah, comedy for sure. I think comedy's okay though, because I think we're gonna need to laugh it off a little bit.
definitely.
But a story about how the government handled coronavirus or like Contagion, the sequel, like I'm good on that for a while.
Yeah, let's wait on that one for a bit.
Yeah.
I could see who's that director who does the. He made the movie about Cheney and The Big Short.
Adam McKay.
Yeah, I feel like he'll do
I
something.
see that for him.
Yeah, I could see something like that.
Yeah.
So you actually mentioned towards the end there about doing some of your own work and some of your own writing, which is a perfect pivot here. I know you've made some fair bit of progress on your novel. What's that been like, writing so much indoors and pushing on that?
I think I'm like a very extroverted introvert, kind of. So I'm, being at home like this doesn't like I can easily get into that. So but it kind of, I don't know. Well, I felt a lot of pressure in the past couple of years to write it because the story has been sitting in my head for like 3 years and I've been like working on it. But I've been working on it a lot more now under quarantine because I think with everything going on, the question of if not now, when is just so present. So it was kind of like, if not now, when? And I have certain days off where I'm not working, or I'm only working like a couple hours. So like I try to set aside those days and look at it. And when I graduated school, I felt like just a full-time job was just not, it felt like a day job to me. I want to like create and like have breaks in between big projects, like put my heart into one thing and then do another. So now I'm taking this novel as like a career move more than just a hobby. Yeah, so I actually have been making progress on that. It's hard though, because it's like weird, because usually I would just write when I was inspired, but now it's like, okay, here's the timer on your phone. You need to write, like, and I'm like sit on my desk with like a stack of books next to me and notebooks, and I like have my research. So I have been making good progress on that. I hope if I keep going at the pace I'm going, I'll be done in like a month, maybe less.
Amazing.
So that could be cool.
Yeah.
I've been working on some short stories that I had written in college and like touching them up and trying to pitch places. A lot of pitching, kind of trying to like boost up the hustle. I don't know how other content creators feel about this, but I actually don't feel that inspired. I think because I'm so weighed down by like everything kind of feels meaningless, like a tiny bit. So it's been a little harder to get in like the zone.
Yeah.
But I think the idea of having all this time puts a lot of pressure on me in a good way.
Yeah, I think, right. I think having the time, if not now, when, that's positive pressure. And then at the same time, speaking to what you're talking about, I think it's it's difficult to force inspiration, especially now when I don't know if you're familiar, you probably are, with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But so much isn't being fulfilled right now because we're
Right.
trapped inside that it's hard to reach the upper echelon of creativity.
Yes, for
Doesn't
sure.
flow as easy as it may have in the past.
Yeah. Like what is, and it's weird because I'm in my house, but then the world is literally falling apart around me. And I'm just like, what am I feel so small. But I think there's always gonna be stuff going on.
Right. And yeah, part of it is being a human is rising above that and trying to make the thing we want to make.
Yeah.
Have You mentioned this a little bit, but has elements of the virus or quarantine crept into the context of the novel or the characters at all?
It hasn't. I think sometimes with your protagonist, you put yourself in it too much, and I think I've gotten more perspective and like been able to see the other characters more and given them more humanity, which is cool. Like I guess it goes back to that idea of like no one feels like a stranger anymore. Uh, and then I had a short story, like somewhat, it was not nonfic. It was a short story that I wrote in college, and it was about this one character. It was actually the whole story's them in their room. It's like a night of them not sleeping, but it's tied to like larger thing that's going on in their life. But I've been working on that one a lot because I think the idea of being alone in your room is very relevant right now.
Right.
So I have been inspired for that story, which was cool.
That is cool. Yeah, there's these different ways that the context of what we're going through right now can work its way into what we're doing. It doesn't have to be like, oh, a virus is going on, so I'm putting a virus in the novel.
Yeah, yeah. And I think also on that, I think so many things have been on pause, like other stories in life. And it makes you think all the things that are going on in the world. Like I remember when I read stories about clinical trials being on pause. It's like people are still fighting cancer right now, and this has affected that in a lot of ways. Or the way it's affected, the virus affects like the Black and Latino community more. There's just so many different walks of life, and I feel like if we stress storytelling, I've always believed is our biggest like weapon, not what weapon against the lack of empathy, or something that can push empathy. So I think we shouldn't forget about stories about life before this because they matter too.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything else is still going on and we can still use stories as a driver for empathy and getting that good stuff out there, that connection. Well, this has been wonderful. I want to thank you for being on. If you have any closing thoughts or anything that you would like to say.
Cool to talk to people and
Yeah.
remember that like it's cool to see. I have such a larger appreciation for FaceTime now. I was always a caller, but I like seeing people's faces more. So this is fun. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You graduated last year, right?
Yeah, I graduated last year, doing well. I bounced around to a few different jobs this past year. Currently looking for some work. Not a great time to be looking for work, but it's okay. Doing my best, staying busy. Part of the reason I was doing the COVID chats was to keep myself busy and to see people. And as you mentioned, seeing people's faces and talking is crucial right now. So making the most of it. But yeah, thank you so much for being on. Very much appreciate it. Hope you continue to stay safe, continue to be well, and hopefully maybe I can see you in person over the summer, but that might be too soon, so maybe the fall.
Yes, we'll see. Play it by ear.
We'll see how it works out. We'll see how it all shakes out, but yeah. Thank you again, Brielle, and best
Thank
of luck
you.
with everything.
Stay safe, be well.
Stay safe, bye-bye.